When the alien envoy first arrived at Earth's orbital peace station, they were smug. They brought their fleets, their diplomats, their high-tech truth machines. The HFY, a species with scales like molten bronze and eyes that measured fear like currency, expected a ritual. The humans would sit politely, nod, and sign away whatever the aliens demanded. Ambassador Kale of the HFY tapped his clawed fingers on the translucent table, studying the humans across from him. There were only 3 of them. No armor, no weapons, just faces lined by decades of wars they had survived, and perhaps wars they had ended before anyone else realized. "You come without your military," Kale hissed. "You trust yourselves to." "Trust ourselves?" The human ambassador interrupted smoothly, leaning back. His gray hair caught the dim light, his gaze sharp as a sniper's. "We trust you to know that we don't need to bring our toys to your table." Kale blinked. The others whispered in their liquid tongue, their scales vibrating with disbelief. The humans weren't threatening. Not outwardly. They were calm. Too calm. "You don't understand humans," Kale said, his voice rising. "Without your military present, you are vulnerable?" The ambassador said, a slow smile creeping over his face. "Yes. That's exactly why we sent only 3. Vulnerability is a statement. Strength hides in the spaces you underestimate." The aliens chuckled nervously. They assumed confidence was ignorance. They didn't know it was a weapon. The discussion began. Trade routes, planetary claims, resource extraction, standard fare for interstellar peace talks. But as Kale rattled off threats veiled as polite suggestions, the humans made notes, occasionally sipping water, occasionally smiling like they were listening to children argue over marbles. Then the HFY slipped up. A map flickered on their holotable, showing a cluster of human-colonized star systems. One sector, supposedly uninhabitable, blinked a soft green. "You lie," Kale hissed, narrowing his eyes. The human ambassador tapped the map. "No, Kale. We're simply misunderstood. That sector has no native life. Only human life. And they're trained, disciplined, and equipped. But you won't see it until you underestimate it." "What do you mean?" Kale demanded. "Your fleets are not here. Your soldiers are. Exactly where we want them," the human said. And then the station lights dimmed. From the comm systems came a low hum that grew into a roar, filling the HFY's ears with a mechanical symphony they didn't understand. Across the galaxy, human drones began to awaken. Not patrol drones. Not ships. Stealth vectors, capable of maneuvering through subspace with near-zero signatures. And they weren't armed with lasers. They were armed with traps, electromagnetic nets, destabilizers, AI-guided boarding craft. "Your military isn't here," the human ambassador said, voice calm. "Because we don't need to be here to win." Kale's jaw dropped. The alien fleet surrounding Earth's orbit began flickering on tactical displays, ships immobilized, communications scrambled, navigation systems fried. Humans had anticipated every move, predicted every counter, laid a trap the HFY hadn't even considered. The room went silent. The HFY weren't facing humans, they were facing human foresight. Hours later, the HFY were still reeling. Their pride had been shattered, and the humans, still 3 in number, were standing at the same table, sipping water as if nothing had happened. You used the station against us," Kale stammered. "But why? You could have brought our military?" The human ambassador finished for him, a thin, knowing smile curling across his face. "Kale, if we'd brought our fleets, you would have surrendered immediately. You would have thought it was intimidation. But without them? Without anyone else in the room? You saw humans, and you thought you could challenge us. That was your mistake. You didn't negotiate with Earth. You played poker with the only species in the galaxy that doesn't fold." Kale tried to muster a counterattack. He signaled, his fleet's weapons systems engaging. Every attempt was anticipated. Every movement mirrored. Every escape route blocked. The humans weren't just clever, they were mercilessly precise. By the time the HFY admitted defeat, the lesson had been seared into their memory. Humans could strike from shadows, predict the unpredictable, and punish arrogance with surgical brutality, all without firing a single visible shot. The human ambassador stood, gesturing to the map. Consider this a friendly demonstration. We bring our military to battlefields, not to conference rooms. When you meet humans in negotiations, remember this: our true weapons are our minds, our strategies, and our will. Our fleets are the last thing you'll ever see before regret finds you. And then he left. 3 humans, walking through a room of shaken aliens, leaving behind only the echo of confidence and terror. Weeks later, back on Earth, the ambassador addressed a gathering of military and political leaders via encrypted holo. "They'll talk about the summit for centuries," he said, tapping a glass of amber liquid. "But no alien worth their scales will ever sit at a human negotiation table thinking they're in control. They'll remember that we play a different game. They'll remember that humans never bring their military to peace summits. And every time they underestimate us, it costs them everything." A junior officer hesitated. "Sir, what if they strike back?" The ambassador's eyes glinted with dark humor. "Strike back? Let them try. They'll be striking ghosts. We've already rewritten the rules. We don't chase glory, we define it. And when they finally realize that, the galaxy will have learned the most dangerous truth: humans do not need weapons to be feared. Humanity's mind is the deadliest arsenal ever built." Outside the window, Earth gleamed like a jewel, serene, untouched, unthreatened, yet armed with quiet power that could topple empires. Far across the void, the HFY whispered treaties to themselves, terrified of the species that had laughed at convention and redefined war without firing a single shot. Earth did not need its military to remind the universe of one immutable fact: humans are not to be underestimated. Not at peace. Not at war. Not ever. In a quiet office, the ambassador poured himself another drink, smiled wryly, and muttered to no one but the galaxy itself. "We don't bring our military to peace summits, we bring the truth."